This is Mega Man 2, one of my favorite games from the Mega Man series. Developed by Capcom back in 1988 for the NES, it is the second game in the Mega Man series and also the highest selling in the series. At least until Mega Man 11. This game is also not looking so good in this video. The game is not meant to look like this. I blame the thing I'm running this cartridge on since I don't have an original NES with me. Also, this is a Retron. It's a console created to basically emulate the actual hardware since the original hardware is starting to die out. But the one I have has an issue with the color palettes. And so we're here with Mega Man looking like he's sick. Okay, well, every character looking like. There also happens to be an issue with the sound. Anyway, Mega Man 2 has a really cool intro, even for an NES game. Sorry, I'm still not over Mega Man looking ill for no reason. He is not meant to look like that. Alright then, let's start with the lore. Don't worry, it'll be simple because I'll just be going over the first and second game. So there's these two guys, Dr. Light and Dr. Wily. Fun fact about Dr. Light, his name was mistranslated into Dr. Wright in the first game's manual. This was fixed in Mega Man 2. Anyway, these two once worked together, contributing to the scientific advancements of society. Also, Dr. Light has two robot helpers, Rock and Roll. Those are their names. And everything was peaceful until Dr. Wily turned evil and reprogrammed 6 of Dr. Light's robots. This is when Rock volunteers to become Mega Man in order to stop this, which is what he does. And now in the second game, Dr. Wily has returned with 8 robot masters of his own, and we have to stop him. Now that you're all caught up, on to the game. Welcome to the boss selection screen. This is Mega Man's claim to fame. You basically have to select the boss you want to fight first, which you have to play through their respective stage first before you can fight them. We're gonna start with Airman. This stage takes place in the sky, so that means this is over a bottomless pit. I'll also go into the controls since they're simple. You run, jump, and shoot. That's it for the controls. First thing to watch out for are these platforms that not only have spikes coming out of them, but when you're standing on them, they spew out enemies. There's also this one part where you're on a moving platform, and you have to get rid of the enemies on other moving platforms in order to use them. Then there are these robot birds that drop robot eggs that hatch mini robot birds when they land on the ground. They are annoying. And then there's this fan guy. He has a giant fan that pushes you back. That's really all the big threats in this stage. The music is really good. Alright, this is Airman. He has a weakness, but I'm saving that for a surprise. For now, just dodge the mini tornadoes that he shoots out, and be careful when he uses his fan to push you back into the wall. He also jumps after 3 attacks and repeats on the other side. This would be hard, but I've played this a lot now, so this boss is easy. And fun! With that, we got Airman's power and also Item 2. So, items are basically helpful tools for traversal. Item 2 is a flying platform meant for long horizontal stretches. These items are pretty useful for getting items and straight up required later on, but I'll go into that later. Oh, also, this was still pretty early on before battery saves, so here's a password screen. Oh my god, this game of Battleship's going insane. Now with that, the next foe is... Fun fact, in this game, if you hold two... no, it's just one button. I've always heard that it's just 2 buttons, but it's 1 button, and it's A. I'm not kidding. Anyway, the stars in the background turn into birds. Why? I don't know. Starting off, the floor is ice. My solution is to jump a lot, so make sure you don't slide when you try to run in the other direction. Then there are these robots that shoot projectiles constantly and will change the trajectory after a bit. There's this moving wall. His weakness is his face, but be careful on difficult mode, or the original Japanese release, which has no difficulty select. This wall explodes into pieces when he's shot. At least he only has 2 health. There are these giant machines which, when destroyed, the pilot falls down and begins attacking, which this guy shields for a bit and then shoots 3 times. These machines are trivialized with Airman's ability. Just make sure all 3 tornadoes land a hit. Otherwise, these things are difficult to deal with. And then there's these things that I didn't mention before because they weren't much of a threat before, but I had to go down this path and had to deal with them several times. These things that shoot out these things can be destroyed with the quick boomerang. But these are pretty annoying. There's also these walls that I will get into later. The music is also good. You know what, I'm just gonna say it. All the music is really good. Capcom games usually have really good music, and this one definitely has good music. Also, I hope me saying only also the music before cutting to the music will still convey that. I really like the soundtrack. And now for Flashman. His weakness is Airman. Damn it, I got it wrong. It's Crash. Wait, that's wrong? It's actually Metal Man? I never knew. Anyway, he's not too hard of a boss, says me, who is very familiar with the game. I mean, you can still get by with your regular blaster. You just gotta spam it and dodge Flashman. His ability is that he can freeze time, and then he will attack you. The rocky terrain here might make you mess up, but still. Pretty easy. With that, you get Flashman's ability and Item 3. Item 3 is a platform you shoot out that attaches itself to walls and becomes a platform that moves up and down the wall. It will also start going down the moment you jump from the platform. Flashman's ability that you get only gives you a time freeze ability. You can't freeze the screen and attack your enemies, you only freeze the screen, which can make a challenge later on easier, but I'm a real gamer, so I don't need that. For now, next up is... You're gonna have to climb in order to face off against this boss. The stage is a vertical climb towards the top with a lot of ladders, and also this part with platforms that you have to stay on in order to reach the next area. And these blue guys are here to be a pain in the ass. You deal with these flying blue guys who respawn after a while. There can only be 3 of them on screen, and they slowly float towards you. They hurt. Then there's these hard hat guys. They only attack when you get real close and are only vulnerable when they attack. They don't immediately go into hiding when you decide to attack like a certain enemy in Sonic Adventure 2. So if you're quick, you can get rid of them before they even attack. They also move after the attack and then go back into hiding. Also, the birds are back. And then there are these guys who rev themselves up and then go flying towards your location and continue to do so till the end of time. Also the music. This is Crashman. He runs at you, and when you attack, he jumps and shoots a thing at you that will blow up in a few seconds. They also attach to any surface they are shot at. If you keep running when he shoots them, you'll be fine. Also, Crashman is really weak to Airman, like 3 hits and he's done. This fight is incredibly easy with Airman's ability. And with that, we have Crashman's ability. Remember those walls I mentioned? These ones here. Crashman's ability can blow these walls up. Oh, sorry, I've neglected to mention, when you beat a Robot Master, you get their ability and are able to use it from there on. Dang, I should have mentioned that earlier. I finally get to talk about This is the challenge I was talking about, but thankfully I have gamer skills, and I'm able to get through it. Let me explain the challenge here. So you're trying to get past these insta-kill things here, and they come at you really fast, so you gotta be really quick. And that's the challenge, and that's why the time stopper makes it easier, because everything doesn't happen at once. You have these things again. Then there's the fire guys. They throw fire at you and also illuminate the room. I have blinded myself. And then there's, these things again, the giant robots. Oh, I also forgot to mention these impenetrable springy robots that speed up when you're on the same terrain as them. They try to come at you and spring up and attack you. Also the music. Now with all that out of the way, Quickman is difficult. He goes so incredibly fast, not to mention his arena makes it pretty hard to get around him. Basically jumps at you, then jumps away. Either time Quickman will shoot 3 boomerangs at you that will fly at you, stop, and then fly at you again. After he's done jumping, he runs in your direction. You can take out half of his health with Flashman's ability, but from there you gotta get the rest of his health down normally. This is one of the few Robot Masters that has 2 weaknesses. The second one being, okay, it's Heatman's power. And with that out of the way, we get the Quick Boomerang. We're finally getting to the abilities I remember the names of. Now for... I'm gonna spoil it for you because this one part of it is funny. His weakness is the Quick Boomerang, but the funny part is that he's also weak to himself. This stage has conveyor belts that you have to platform around while dodging these spike traps that only drop when you're close to them. Then there's these drill things that come from the ceiling or the ground. These enemies that roll these giant... whatever these things are, I think they're cogwheels. Also, the wall returns again. 2 times to be specific. And by the end, there are the springy enemies I mentioned earlier. And until now, I haven't mentioned, these are energy tanks. You can find them lying around in some levels. You can select it in the menu and it refills all your health. And also 1-ups. Those can be found too, and very rarely will they drop from enemies. Also the music. Alright, Metal Man. This arena has a conveyor belt that will switch directions when Metal Man switches sides. He basically jumps and throws his metal blades at you when you shoot at him, and when you get too close, he jumps to the other side and throws his metal blade at you. Again, his weakness is both himself and the Quick Boomerang. The Quick Boomerang goes at an arc and then returns to you, so you have to plan your shots carefully. So my method is to make him jump to the other side and shoot at him before he jumps again, which in the footage right now looks like me messing that strategy up over and over again. Anyway, we got the Metal Blade, the most overpowered ability in this game, because you can shoot the Metal Blade in any direction, and it goes through enemies as well. So with that, we go to... my favorite song in the entire game. Sorry, the stage is pretty good. It starts you in front of a waterfall, which is really cool, and halfway through the stage you enter water, which you don't swim through, you run in it. The only difference is that you jump really high now. The first and last parts of the stage are also over a bottomless pit, so watch out for that. Also, the first enemies are giant frogs that shoot small frogs out to mess with you, and won't shoot out more until all the small frogs are gone. So if you lead the small frogs towards the next enemy, they can't do anything about it. I love NES logic. Then there are these shell guys that will shoot their shells when you get too close. Then there are these, I think they're lobsters, or they could be shrimp. They come out of this giant fish whose weak point is this thing at the top. The giant fish never comes back if you happen to die after defeating it, so don't worry about fighting it again. Then there are these jellyfish robots that float down and then head straight for you. And your next worst enemy, also referred to as insta-kill spikes. And at the end there are these crabs that fall down and try to attack you. Also the music, here he is. Bubble Man. He shoots bubbles that go up and then land on the ground, then continuing in the direction he shot them. He also jumps up while shooting harpoons at you, if you happen to try and shoot at him. He also floats back down graciously after reaching the top. Bubble Man's weakness is the Metal Blade, which as I mentioned before is the most overpowered ability in the game. And also it makes this fight very easy. Anyway, now we got Bubble Man's ability. Now we move on to... This stage has fire, and also lava pits that kill you at the start, so be careful. Also, bottomless pits. This is also where the invisible blocks appear. This is a series staple. You have to memorize the order of the block pattern so you know exactly when to jump. This part in particular gets easier with Crash Man's ability. The first enemies you see are the two enemies that fly towards you. Then it's the springy enemies, and then... Oh my god! Yeah, that's all the enemies in this stage. Also, here we are at Heat Man. He shoots out fire, and when you attack him, he zooms towards you at max speed after 1 to 3 seconds. Really, that's it. He's really easy with the bubble power, so, yeah, that was incredibly short. Even I'm shocked. We get item 1, a floating platform, and the atomic fire. You know, I'm kind of glad this is Mega Man we're talking about and not, man. I can just feel myself melting just saying atomic fire. Welcome to the forest. We're here to fight wood. Oh wait, I'm still melted. Hold on. I guess I'll wait. Man, being melted here on the ground is incredibly lame. We're climbing up these trees in order to reach the top so we can fight Woodman. I really have nothing else to say. So there are these bat enemies that are impervious unless they're moving. Then these kangaroo guys who jump and then shoot a carrot at you after a few seconds, or is this a bunny? Then these giant dogs that shoot fire from their mouths. And then there's a monkey that jumps up to this bamboo platform and then launches itself up and at you, either after a few seconds or if you get too close. And... oh god, it's the bird enemies again! And finally these impervious roadrunners that, if you're lucky, they will not harm you and will simply jump over you if you lined yourself up correctly. Do I even need to say... Woodman. His weakness is Metal Man. I honestly thought it was fire, but no, it's Metal Man. But the fire, you charge it up, it's basically the charge shot before the charge shot. One of these will take out literally half of the health of the boss. Just to be clear, the charge shot does not do that. Also, Woodman sends out leaves to attack you and launches a leaf shield at you, and then jumps over a bit. Anyway, that's the boss. And with that, we get the leaf shield. And then... we're on the home stretch, and we're breaking into Dr. Wily's castle to fight Dr. Wily for the second time because this is Mega Man 2. This is where I bring up that you need to use all the abilities you have, including the items, which are important for traversal purposes. And for the first 2 stages and the 4th stage's boss, they are really important. For instance, getting over this wall, and then this wall, and then getting up this wall here, and reaching this ladder here. I think I got stuck here when I was younger. Yeah, you want to keep the power up on these abilities the most for the first 2 stages. So as seen before, there's the bird enemies, then there's these things again, and then the enemy that blocks your attacks, the ones that drop from the giant robots, and then there's the one springy enemy, and the blue flying enemies that will not bother you as long as you ignore them. And the boss of this stage is a giant dragon that shoots out fireballs. He's weak to the quick boomerang. So all you gotta do is dodge his fireballs and spam the quick boomerang. And with that, we can go on to... If you need more power for your weapons, which I should mention, any weapon that's not your base weapon needs power to function, they give you these things that refill your weapon energy since you're doing this all in one go. No energy refills before each stage. No automatic energy refills, I mean. There's energy refill. Also, the difficulty in the platforming rises here. You're struggling here? It's kind of obvious what you need to do. Insta-kill spikes here, and you need to get across. What should you use? Item 2, it will get you across easily. You can make this first jump here, but you can push your luck and reach the second ladder here, and reach a special area and get tons of items and skip these enemies. Be careful here, do not jump from this ladder, you need to make sure you fall down this hole here. Enemies. The flying enemies who rev themselves up, these guys are annoying here. They can very easily damage you right when you start flying with item 2, causing you to waste your power. Then there's the enemy that shoots that I said you could avoid if you're skilled enough. Then the drills return for this part, and the spikes that fall when you get too close. And I've yet to mention the music. Anyway, the boss is this entire room. Don't believe me? Well, you do now. This boss is pretty hard. Two parts of the room come together to form a robot that starts flying towards you, and then it repeats for every single one defeated, getting faster like every 3 or so. If you try it with any of the other weapons, you'll need to have to jump around a whole lot. It's better to use the metal blade on this boss since you can throw them in any 8 directions given. And also, when every boss in Wily Castle is defeated, it flashes the screen several times. We've done it. Next is... music has changed now. We're getting closer to the end, and this stage is pretty difficult. I mean, starting out it's okay. There are some items you can get if you need them. Then there's water here, the insta-kill spikes, and then this part. You need to be very careful here. How did that? Anyway, after that, it's pretty easy. Just a couple of enemies. Speaking of which, first enemy you see is the shell enemy and these giant gray fish. And lastly, the shooting enemies. Has anyone noticed I don't know the names to these enemies? And the boss is this giant tank guy. He moves to the left side of the screen and then to the right side, while shooting projectiles and enemies out. Oh yeah, he also has a giant fist he can punch you with. Just jump and shoot the quick boomerang at his face. That's it, really. Now it's time for the hardest stage here. That being... The stage is difficult for both the platforming and the boss of the stage. So here there are platforms that you can't even land on, which this floor, like this part, is a mimic of the next room. First part is easy, but then the next one has insta-kill spikes. Here's what I do here. So I jump from this part first for the first gap, but then the next one I jump from around here. It always works. From there, you don't need to worry until the next few rooms with the moving platforms. Mixed with the blue flying enemies for 2 different rooms, it's pretty difficult. Okay, well maybe just one of the rooms, but some of the platforming here is very difficult. This part is really difficult. Thankfully, I have item 2. Anyway, the first enemies are the hard hat enemies, then the blue flying enemies like mentioned before, and then the giant robot enemies mixed in with the shield enemies. And with that, the boss. This boss. The Boo Beam Trap. This boss's weakness is specifically Crashman's ability, which you can only use 7 of, and there are 5 of these things, and 5 walls to blow up. You need to ration these shots if you want to beat this boss first try. You only want to destroy these 2 walls, so you need to use item 1 for some of these. Oh yeah, also these things all shoot an energy ball at you simultaneously after a couple of seconds. That's all they do. This is pretty difficult to figure out on your own. Thinking about the solution now, it's pretty obtuse. I'm sure lots of people got here only to use up all of Crashman's ability and lose their last life here and get really pissed. I remember playing this when I was younger and that happened to me, and I didn't know how to get past it. I had to look it up, but I've managed to do it. Now with that, boss rush time! Welcome to the boss rush. All the terrain is the same, so go nuts with these bosses. Spam whatever weapon you have. Do I even need to explain these bosses again? Oh wait, I almost forgot. Airman's weakness is the leaf shield. The guy with the power of wind is weak to leaves. Anyway, once they're all done, a new teleporter appears, taking you to the Dr. Wily boss fight. This boss will move back and forth while shooting these energy balls in an arc at you. This is in Phase 1. Phase 2 has him shooting these energy balls in a pattern. This boss is weak to the atomic fire and Crashman's ability. But here you can see I used the metal blade because I could spam it and shoot it at him, so I didn't have to jump. Just do whatever you can, use either his weaknesses or start with his weaknesses and then finish with the metal blade. The start of this stage is really eerie. Platforming is easy, but you want to be careful. This is dropping from the... Something's dripping... Well, something is dripping from the ceiling. It looks like blood. You want to be careful. You know, if you're not going all the way to the edge of the screen before this part, which trivializes the whole section, which, yeah, okay, it's an NES game. It's not like they expected this. Now... Dr. Wily's an alien. He goes in a figure 8 shape and will shoot a projectile at certain points, and I'm gonna use the speedrunning term for this. Do not hug the alien, he takes out almost all of your health. Anyway, this boss is weak to the bubble, and only the bubble. If you use any other weapon, it instantly refills his health. So use your energy carefully. It's time for the ending. And that's the ending. I mean, in our current age, this doesn't seem as impressive, but for 1988, the ending is pretty impressive. They did a good job here, although a little part of Wily Castle, especially on difficult mode, is very hard, and the problem solving is very out there, especially if you have never used any of the items. The game overall is good. Some of the rough spots coming from, well, early NES game moments. That shouldn't deter you from trying out this game. Mega Man is really fun. If you want to try it out, the Mega Man Legacy collections are on consoles and PC. What are you still doing watching this video? It's over, go watch something. Specifically something by me.